Hey everyone, and welcome back. In this particular video, I want to talk just a little bit about department scheduling and some of the ways that maybe you go about getting a class in your particular program. Now, this set of videos, a lot of this is intended for our new instructors, could be our full-time instructors, more likely our part-time instructors, because we employ so many more part-time instructors than full-time instructors here at the district. And you might just have a question like, as a new faculty member, how do you, after you've been hired on through your department, how do you get a class, and what's the process of scheduling? So actually, it's kind of a long answer, and I'll try to go through this as simply as possible, but the process has changed over the years. So I'll refer in this video a little bit to some of the project called SEM, or Strategic Enrollment Management, that I and a number of other campus members have been involved in really over the last year or so, and now moving into year 2. So SEM is focused on really trying to achieve more strategic enrollment management at the college so that you don't have to cancel so many classes, so that you don't have to have a class offered that does get canceled that results in student disappointment because they can't complete their degrees or certificates or even get their full-time load as a student. So our team met over a period of a year, and we focused on strategies that we could take to make our enrollment management more strategic. And colleges across the state of California are doing this, and really across the country. So it's really becoming the norm. It allows us to be more efficient, and it allows us to be more student focused. So in the old days of scheduling, what typically was the process, and I'm speaking from having worked in a sociology anthropology department either at the university level or community college level for over 25 years, and having been for at least the last 22 years of that involved directly in scheduling all of my courses for sociology and anthropology. So under the old system, what would happen is I would sit down, and this was in the days of paper schedules, nothing was electronic. So I would create my schedule on paper, and I would go through and say, Anthro 102, culture anthropology. I want to offer that Monday, Wednesday, or Monday 6 to 9:50 p.m. And I might make a request for my classroom, and I'd put the instructor on there. If it was me, I would put my name down there. I would do that for all my anthropology classes, and then I would do that for all my sociology classes, because and I still am currently the chair of both those programs, those departments. And then what would happen is those schedules would go into our instructional deans. The instructional deans would take those schedules, make some tweaking and modification, perhaps if there were some questions, share that with the CIO, the chief instructional officer, in charge of academic affairs, in charge of instructions, the instruction office, and then that schedule would get produced. And so the process started at the departmental level. Now, there's still some conversation about this statewide. You talk to colleagues across the state, and some people say it still should be happening in the departments. Other people say, well, in my district, it's never happened at the departmental level because there's no way we'd get it done. If we have 100 departments and we have some departments with over 100 faculty members in each department, how in the world could we make this process efficient by, waiting for all that stuff to happen, and then those schedules get turned in, and it would really result in some complex situations on a large campus if everyone was competing for the same classrooms, or you had multiple sections of the same general education courses offered at the same time. It's not going to result in a lot of student success. You're going to have too much overlap between offerings, etc. So a lot of districts either didn't start with that process like we did. They always had things happening at the instruction office level, maybe with instructional deans or directors. And some schools have different structures than we do in terms of department chairs and deans. But we've traditionally done it that way, where we start with the departments. Over the last year or so, we've shifted to a different model, and I'll try to share with you just some images here of what this looks like. Actually today, this is August of 2019, we were actually in this classroom today. We were working on a scheduling meeting, and I'll show you some of those images. Basically what we do is very similar to what happens at the departmental level. So we might go through each of the programs. We start with anthropology, maybe alphabetically if it's at the top. And then we talk about, well, here's what we've offered in the past, and here's what we might offer in the future. And we've been trying to create this 3-year schedule that has different color coordination. This started actually back in About over a year ago, winter of 2018, a few of us worked on this schedule, created a Google document, and over time it became a bigger document, and we've been adding and subtracting to it ever since. We've also, since this process started, have, through Adam Lang and the folks responsible for developing the data side of things, created this Tableau system that's a tool that allows us very quickly, and I'll show you some images of that here, to look at classes, to look at GE offerings, and look at some of those things that I just mentioned earlier that can be pitfalls to scheduling at a community college. Overlap, not offering the right classes at the right time, offering competing classes that the same group of students need at the same time. So for example, nursing students who need a calculus class and a chemistry or a physics class and are all offered at the same time. It's really not a model that is sustainable because it's not efficient. It doesn't give us the big picture of things in terms of how to manage all the moving parts of classes and programs and requirements and so forth. And it doesn't really offer us a student-centered focus. And so the shift, I think, has happened for us pretty well. There's still some conversation, and I'd be curious to hear from some of you privately. Again, anytime you have a question, you can come by my office, you can send me an email. We can even have, if you want, a seminar or live cast on this very topic. But the shift that's happened at LTCC then is from that departmental level of scheduling to this kind of bigger group. And the group often involves administrators. I've been involved, and I may be transitioning out of that role, I have to see. Sarah and Pete from counseling have been involved very heavily. Tracy has come in for a few meetings as well. And we often have other people invited in, say from the research office or Adam Lang from data, to help us, looking at getting some of the pieces that we need to do the analysis necessary to create a schedule that is very effective. I suspect things will continue to change and evolve over time as we're rolling out guided pathways, meta majors, as we're thinking about mapping programs and sequence of classes through all our GE offerings, through all our degrees and certificates, our transfer degrees. Some of that master list of courses on the 3-year schedule might change over time, and as a result, we'll see fluctuations in offerings and so forth. What we're seeing is that there's a direct connection back to departments. So what happens typically is when questions come up, if there's a question about anthro, Allie can come to me and say, our instructional dean, hey, what exactly is your thought of offering a section of Anthro 107, Magic, Witchcraft, and Religion every single quarter? Or a question might be, why is it offered only DE and not face-to-face? And I think that becomes that first level of conversation back with the departments. Then, after the projected schedule is created for a particular quarter, let's say today we were working on winter 2020 and spring 2020, further connection will happen back to the departments. Typically, that will involve questions about instructors, questions about the times of classes, the days, etc. Now, jumping back to my original point in this video, I said, well, what happens with you, a part-time instructor who wants to teach a particular class? So under the old system, we often used a model where the joke is someone rolled into town and we knew they played the didgeridoo, so we offered, a special topics, didgeridoo performance. And we did that because we had an expert in town, and it was a model more based on the staffing availability than on what students actually need. Now that that model has shifted over time, the feeling is we really need to do things in reverse. Now, we always have a pool of instructors. I have a very robust pool in both anthropology and sociology, and I have to have a huge pool. I've been hiring instructors left and right, particularly to keep up with our very strong ISP, Incarcerated Students Program offerings. So as a result of that, what I try to do as a department chair is to space people around. I try to look at strengths. If I know that Melinda Bunton is really the expert on campus to teach physical anthropology, bioanthropology, then I might say, hey Melinda, that's kind of your expertise. Some of that I think you'll find naturally happens in your departments. Over time, if you're teaching biology, for example, maybe you have expertise in ecology more so than you do in A&P, anatomy and physiology. As a result, it may be likely that the department chair will lean on you to teach those courses that fit in with your expertise. Now, that being said, it's not always the case when we're scheduling classes that we can necessarily always match up exactly one-to-one your top interest, your subfield inside your discipline with the class that we have available for you. So unfortunately, in some cases we say, hey, we have this class available, are you interested? And if you're not interested, we might look to the next person. I think most department chairs here at the college realize that you're very busy, you might teach for multiple colleges, so we want to make that process of scheduling classes for you as seamless and fair and efficient as possible. So we try to let you know ahead of time what classes might be out there. I sometimes do this annually for my instructors, saying, hey, I think this is what we're looking at in terms of our summer, fall, winter, and spring offerings. Every department does it differently. So if you're new to the college and you've been hired, there's a pretty good chance that that department chair or dean, and I should say there are departments, of course, that do not have department chairs. And as a result of that, you might work very closely with your dean or in some cases a director. It kind of depends on the program you're teaching in. So if you have questions, you can always reach out to me or others on campus about that. But typically, if you've been newly hired, the thought is you have an expertise that we really need, you have an area based upon your discipline, your training, that we really want to offer, and so probably we're matching up with a class. If that's not the case, if you've been hired because we know we need someone in that area, then I think it's incumbent on you to really work with either your department chair or lead and or your instructional dean, depending on if you don't have a chair over your program, to talk about your interest in classes. Talk about your interest in which classes you might want to teach. Talk about days and times that you're available. We realize you have other jobs and positions. You have childcare duties to deal with. You have other commitments. Sometimes I've had instructors, for example, travel over the summer and have said, hey, I can't teach face-to-face because of that, or I can't teach in our ISP program because of the lag in mail going to another country. We totally get that, and we try to work with your schedules and make it fair and, again, flexible as much as we can. In some cases, though, we need to offer a class, we need to fill that class, so sometimes we have to move very quickly. So one of the things I want to say is that if you don't get that class one quarter that you were looking for and someone else was picked, and even if you're not used one quarter, don't take that the wrong way. It doesn't mean that you're not important. It doesn't mean that you won't get a class in the future. It's just a lot of times things are moving quickly. As you might imagine, because we teach on a quarter system and we offer 4 quarters, summer, fall, winter, and spring, we have to move very quickly and plan very far ahead to get our classes scheduled and to get our potential list going and then fill those with instructors, because often you'll see in the preliminary schedule it just says staff. So my encouragement is to talk to your department chairs, to talk to your instructional deans as applicable, and to really have conversations about what you want to teach. Going forward, hopefully we can begin to identify the classes that best fit your interests and your areas of expertise in terms of your disciplinary or academic training, and B, fit your lifestyle, fit your schedule, fit your work commitments, your child and family commitments, your travel schedules. We really try to match you up as best as we can. And I should say, if you're teaching face-to-face, obviously it's a little harder sometimes to think about that because it's a set time and day. If you're teaching DE because of the flexibility of grading and checking in on your class, then often it's maybe a little easier for us to assign this to you, a particular class, because of that flexibility. And the same thing with ISP, although keep in mind with our ISP program, there is a bit of a lag time as the mail goes to and from the institutions and the college, to and from our students, and then to and from you, the instructor here at the college. So I hope it's a meaningful journey as you focus on trying to get the classes that you want in terms of your schedule. And by all means, ask questions and talk to people. I think we have really great people on campus in terms of our department chairs, our leads, our directors, our instructional deans. Reach out to people, be honest about your situation, talk about the classes that you would like, and again, don't get frustrated if the first time trying you don't get the class that you wanted, because very likely you could get that class in the future, because so many things are in flux and in movement as we all try to work on scheduling here at the college. So thanks for listening, and I'll be back with more detailed videos here about this and many other topics.